Delaware. It is April 30th, a Thursday, here on WDEL. Thanks for being here. And like we like to do every month or so, we're keeping an eye on the job market. And when we do that, we welcome in Chris Burkhard, Placer Staffing in Newark, to help us kind of figure things out. Chris, hi. Thanks for coming on.
Pete, it's great to be on again this month. Thanks for carving out some time for this topic.
Always a pleasure, sure. And quite a topic it is, Chris. You know, as we dive into the Delaware job market here, we have unemployment right now at, 5.5%? We're a full point higher than where we were last year. So I guess the question is, or one of them, for the listener at home who's hitting apply on every site with zero luck, what is actually happening out there?
Well, the overall theme is change is just constant. Let's start with good news. We are starting to see a shift. There are signs of job life, and it's across all sectors: manufacturing, small business, warehouse. We know healthcare and social services and government always drives jobs, and they're doing pretty well too. But it's against a backdrop where unemployment is actually up in all three Delaware counties. You might have to be under a rock not to have noticed that business hasn't been really great the last few quarters. And really what I've seen is a response where many businesses just haven't been replacing staff when someone left. It's not an environment of rampant layoffs, although there are some. They are more of the exception, and they're typically the really big names. But it's created, you know, I like to label things. It's created this job-hugging environment where people are unnaturally not quitting. There's not a confidence that they can move quickly or efficiently into their next role. So ironically, when people hug their jobs, it creates less opportunity. So when I don't leave my job, I don't create an opportunity for someone who's ready for my job. So there's less jobs, and the job search is competitive. And in reality it's really heating up. Job search is being driven by technology and, AI. Every step, every screen, everything is technology. And that can be really frustrating if your job search was 4 years ago. It's changed that much.
Yeah, and it sounds like a pretty massive barrier, Chris. I guess what I would follow up with is, if I'm a Delaware small business owner, how is my hiring process different than the big corporations that are using AI?
Well, it's a gap. Many businesses are deploying AI in their business, right? And it's just starting to pick up. So as you might imagine, it's happening in human resources. It's happening in hiring. It's helping firms automate all hiring tasks. So the average job seeker will interact with an AI agent or chatbot. They'll be asked questions. Their background will be gathered. Logistics will be by an agent. Your next steps will be an automated process where this is in place. And then the HR team itself is probably using AI to match your resume against their opening, and it's reaching out to applicants and doing automatic screens. And you know what? It's 24/7.
Yeah.
So it has this opportunity to be a greater experience. I always hear this, that people have submitted a resume or had an interview, and then they hear crickets. So the potential here is much more engaging. But this investment is really hard for most companies. They don't put AI in this first. So they may post a job and interview, but they're really counting on whatever service they're using to have some automation to reduce admin work. And it's not as much as, like Placers. We've had to put a lot into this because we have to go fast and we have to hire for many.
Right, exactly. Let's break down the numbers more. We've seen contraction in like construction, Chris, and transportation, but on the other side of things, growth in health and government. So I guess what I'm curious about is, should people be, or are they rightful to be a little bit freaked out by the unemployment rate right now?
We're all pretty intelligent learners. What I'm seeing, so healthcare adds jobs every month. Gosh, for 5 years I've been saying that to you. But the trends show that workers are changing, say, from a white-collar job to go back to school to get into healthcare. It makes sense. It's a solid, secure field. And this has been a little bit more recent, but construction and the skilled trades, well, office workers are leaving white-collar work to get into the trades because it's solid, good-paying roles. So the trend is to go where the jobs are, which is common sense. But it isn't what was happening. I think it's happening because, if you're in an office and you're not seeing promotions and you see people leave and they're not replaced, eventually you figure it out. But here's what's interesting about our numbers. We both said unemployment is up 1% from this time last year. In our state, that equates to 7,000 people. What's interesting is the majority of those workers are either new to the workforce, so recent high school or college graduates, or they are folks returning to the workforce. You can look at that positively or negatively. Folks that are coming back into the workforce and need to work again, maybe retirees coming back, and it's also college grads that are taking much longer to get that job. So, it's just insight. It's not all unemployed that are laid off or, being repurposed. Our workforce has grown, and what it shows me is our job market is having a hard time absorbing an increase in the supply of workers, which I think supports what we've been talking about, Pete, which is a kind of a, it's a slow grind of slow hire and even slower fire.
Yeah. You kind of indicated this earlier. The resume in and of itself has probably never been as much of a data file as it is now. It's paperwork and it goes into the process and there you have it. So that said, and this is kind of along the lines of what Placers does. That considered, Chris, how do I get that job?
Well, this is going to date me, but in the old days, folks used to send in a pink resume and cover letter to stand out on the pile of 500,
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure it really worked, but the point is your resume can't be a brochure. It's not perfect prose, which kind of makes sense. But, Pete, I got to tell you, the one thing the world has figured out, they're using AI and technology to do their cover letter and resume. Like, that's the one thing we all seem to have.
Mm-hmm.
However, I will say this. If anybody's listening, needs help with their resume, Placers will do it for free, just because I think that should be a democratized process. And if you don't have access to make it pretty, we'd be happy to do it. But the key is it's about making your file talk to a computer. So you're just aligning certain basic things. Now, what that has done, which I think is really interesting, is organizations are overwhelmed with really good cover letters and resumes for jobs. They get more responses that look better, yet people are showing up and they might have a gap in their skills and experience from what's on their resume.
Right.
So if you're looking for work right now, what you can expect is this is the show me era. Applicants are more frequently being asked to demonstrate skills, take tests. They're being asked to show how they might approach a project or how they might have to do a presentation. And it's really an interesting reaction. But if you really want that job and you're transferring skills from one field to another or one company to another, you'll consider it. But, this is a big change because all things considered, resumes are all starting to look the same.
Well, before I let you go, let me ask you this, because you're hitting on a point that is curious to me as I hear you talking. So is there a taboo at all associated with someone sending in a clearly AI-generated resume, or in fact, is that AI-generated resume just the thing that may get them further down the cycle? You know what I'm saying?
I do know exactly what you mean. I don't know how much you've spent reading an AI document. But it just feels non-human.
Correct.
Or artificial.
Yep.
So if your resume is all AI and you're not a professional editor, or if you haven't worked with somebody who kind of knows how to do it, no, I think to the right audience, it's an absolute turnoff.
Yeah.
So everything about technology is expertise applied to a tool to make it better. So whether it's your uncle that helps you, or a recruiter or a friend, I think still getting some help around this is really important because there are best practices with it.
Yeah.
But what I can tell you, that's a lot better than what was sent in, which were really poorly constructed, poorly written resumes. I think it's the same mess, but it just looks very different today. And I can tell you the pros are very frustrated by what's being sent in because everything is so easily customizable to the job. everything.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell who the real talent of the person is.
Yeah, great answer. Thank you. MyPlacers.com is where you find out about Chris Burkhard and his staff and what they can do for you along the kind of lines we're talking to today. Chris, as always, thanks so much, and we will talk again soon, sir.
Look forward to talking to you next month, Pete.
Chris Burkhard, Placers Staffing here on Delaware. We're back in just a couple.